Hello there everybody, it is Swacer back again today, and this is going to be our review and breakdown for Chapter 4 of the Book of Boba Fett titled The Gathering Storm. And right off the bat, I really enjoyed this episode. I'd probably give it like an 8.5 out of 10. I definitely enjoyed this one much more than Chapter 3, which I didn't dislike, but I just enjoyed this one much more. But overall, this was a really fun episode. There were still a couple of things that I had like mixed feelings on, but there was a lot of really awesome moments in this episode. So without further ado, let's get right into the review. Okay, up first, let's talk about the things that I liked. And there was a lot of things in this episode that I really enjoyed, but especially getting to see more of the partnership and the dynamic between Boba Fett and Fennec. I loved getting to see how Boba Fett had rescued her from the events of The Mandalorian. I thought that was great, like those flashback sequences. Now, real quick, the only real gripe, not even a gripe, but just the one thing that I had mixed feelings on about this episode was that modification group. I had mentioned this in the last video about last week's episode, but, it's not that I dislike the group. I think I, enjoy the aesthetic and the creative decision, but they feel a little bit too much like Coruscant and not enough like Tatooine. That's just in my opinion. Again, I don't dislike them, but that was the one thing that I had like mixed feelings on this episode. But I loved getting to see more of the dynamic between Boba Fett and Fennec Shand. And speaking about that dynamic, it's in the conversations between these two characters that we finally get to hear and see Boba Fett vocalize the impact that Tusken Raider tribe had on him and why he's doing what he's doing, why he wants to be this crime boss. And it was really good to get to see that. But also, it was just really fun and exciting getting to see Boba Fett and Fennec Shand go on this huge escapade where, they go to Jabba's palace, now Bib Fortuna's palace, to reclaim the Slave One, out of its captivity. There was a ton of Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith references in there that I thought were absolutely hilarious. So then once they get the Slave One, they go and look for Boba Fett's armor at the Pit of Carkoon to the Sarlacc, and, obviously it's not there. The Jawas took it. Some people were asking why he didn't remember that the Jawas took it. It's probably because they bashed him in the head with, their disruptor rifle. I would imagine that's why he doesn't remember. But a whole bunch of things happen. The whole sequence was great, and then eventually they wind up blowing it up from the inside with a seismic charge, which was absolutely awesome. And not to mention the absolutely bone-chilling sequence. I mean, it was so awesome to watch. It was very fulfilling, but in a dark way, getting to see Boba Fett take out his revenge on that Nikto bike rider gang. I mean, they totally had it coming. It was very well deserved, but that was just absolutely brutal, but so entertaining to watch. And then can we talk about Black Chrysanthemum, because he was another highlight of this episode. I'm so glad that he's back and he didn't just walk off into the desert never to be seen again, but in his drunken state, just totally unprovoked, he goes and just takes those Trandoshans, knocks them out and rips the one's arm off, which, and for those who don't know, there is a long-lasting history between the Trandoshans and Wookiees. They have a very long-lasting rivalry, but, whereas Chewbacca would have, ripped somebody's arms off in defense, Chrysanthemum was just nah, I've had it with these people, they're, smiling away, having a good time gambling, I'm gonna go rip that guy's arm off. Totally unprovoked, but he is a beast, and it's just, I'm so glad that he's now working for Boba Fett too. Boba Fett is now looking for muscle, and we're going to talk about that next. Okay, by the end of the episode, Boba Fett is now officially looking for help. He's trying to hire more muscle because he knows at this point it is inevitable that he's going to have to go to war with the Pikes, which we've been talking about a syndicate war for a while now. Now, it doesn't look like it's going to be to the scale that I had imagined. It looks like the Hutts have kind of left the picture for the most part. Crimson Dawn is nowhere to be seen, so maybe they aren't showing up. I still have a feeling that they might make some type of appearance, but it really looks like it's just going to be between the Pikes and Boba Fett and his bounty hunter crew that he's going to hire. And among those bounty hunters is, of course, Din Djarin the Mandalorian himself, because we hear his music play at the end of this episode, and that had me up on my feet. I was super excited. As soon as I heard that musical cue, I was like, all right, it's time. Din Djarin the Mandalorian, he's coming to town. And but also, I'm still really hoping that we get to see characters like Bossk and Dengar and any number of other bounty hunters that we've seen before, because Boba Fett, while he is very formidable himself, and so is Chrysanthemum, and so is the Mandalorian, I still think they're going to need a much larger team to take on the Pike Syndicate. So what I'm hoping happens next episode in Chapter 5 is that Boba Fett, Fennec Shand, and Chrysanthemum go out looking for this muscle, for these bounty hunters to recruit and hire, and the first one is going to be Din Djarin the Mandalorian. And then, together as a team, they go out looking for more bounty hunters. I'm talking Bossk, Dengar, Embo, who knows, any number of bounty hunters that we've seen in the past I think would be eligible, and I really hope that we get to see as many as possible. But, they're not necessarily friends, right? A lot of the bounty hunters have a lot of beef between each other, especially Boba Fett with Bossk and Dengar. I would more so call them adversaries at times. But I think, like I said, given the right circumstances, they would be able to work together to take on the Pikes. Okay, so that about sums up my review for this episode, but what I'm going to do, just like the past couple of videos, is attach all of the TikTok videos that I've already made to the end of this video, and we're going to talk about references, Easter eggs, and a couple of small funny things like that, so hopefully you guys enjoy these videos too. When Fennec Shand and Boba Fett take out the Sarlacc with a seismic charge, which was the coolest thing ever, that is very clearly a deliberate reference to Jaws when Chief Brody takes out the Great White Shark. And this is not the first time that Star Wars has referenced Jaws. The first one that comes to my mind is actually in Season 2 of Star Wars Rebels. I absolutely love when Star Wars references itself in other projects, and this one might be my new favorite. Spoiler warning for Chapter 4 of the Book of Boba Fett in 3, 2, 1.
Hello there. General Kenobi!
Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, I really enjoyed this episode. Probably an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's my second favorite episode after Chapter 2. I cannot wait for Chapter 5. I'm really hoping that they pick up the pace here. Go out and find all these bounty hunters and take on the Pikes. There's only 3 episodes left, I think. Chapter 5, 6, and 7. And most of the stuff from the trailers has already been shown. So, anything could happen and I can't wait. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode. Stay tuned for more Star Wars content. And may the Force be with you all, always.